What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This is your girl, Saina Wynn, and
This is
Jessica. Go ahead and
what's
introduce
up.
yourself. We are here again. I may be your friend, I may be your foe, I don't know, but I am so excited to have a new guest with us. You all know should know that Jessica, she's been here for the last two episodes. She is your new cousin, your new co-host, and we are excited to bring you Little Mix Bunny here today. And if you don't mind, please go ahead and introduce yourself for the people, for your new cousins.
Yes, hello, everyone. So I'm Little Mx.Bunny. I am a burlesque performer coming from upstate New York. I love doing what I do, and I love that it is able to bring me some really cool connections, like meeting you two today. So I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I'm so excited to meet
We're
you.
glad to have you.
So tell us a little bit more just about how did you get the name Little Mix Bunny? Can we start there?
Sure. So it's a weird mix of different things about myself and different things that inspire me.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I always like the term little. Like even with like rappers like Lil Wayne, it sounds so corny but so cute at the same time. I kind of wanted to do my own little mix on it.
Yes.
And the term mix, I am a non-binary person, and I wanted to find a way to kind of put that into my burlesque identity as well. So I thought it'd be nice to do the gender neutral instead of Mr. or Miss, doing mix, because not only does it sound really cool, but it represents a little bit of my non-binariness and makes it
Mhm.
feel heard. And then Bunny, I have always been deeply inspired. I know as shitty as they are, the aesthetic is cute. Playboy magazine, I have
Oh,
Mm.
been so deeply inspired by their work, and particularly the Black Playboy mates that have rocked the pages of Playboy. I love it so deeply. So I kind of wanted to keep that in there as well. So all that said, it turned into Little Mix Bunny, and I like it. Sometimes people get really confused by it. Sometimes in the middle of introducing me, they'll forget that they didn't even really ask how to pronounce.
Oh,
So, in
that's
the kind of long superhero origin story way, I've been into
okay.
burlesque since I was little. Like sneaking up and staying late, seeing what HBO had to offer as a little kid. I ended up stumbling upon a uh, documentary about burlesque.
Mhm.
Do
Hmm.
I remember what the documentary was called? Hell no. Did I even realize it was about burlesque? No. But was I a tiny gay child and was like, oh my gosh, pretty ladies doing
Yeah.
pretty things and getting to live off of it? That's so cool.
I feel like
uh,
I probably watched the same thing on HBO because
yes, and
they
at
were
the
just
time I
showing you
didn't.
so much cool things. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're so good. And at the time, I didn't think about like, oh, it's sex work and like it's technically like erotic dancing. At the time, I was just like, these are a bunch of really cool ladies that get to do what they want to do and look really cool doing it.
Hmm.
And I definitely kept that with me as I got older. And when I was around 19, I thought I wanted to get into it, but I wasn't ready quite yet. But that's definitely where I started, like doing yoga a little bit more. I started taking pole dancing classes and started kind of experimenting with things around burlesque.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then during the pandemic, I gave up and I was like, you know what? If the world is going to implode on us, then I'm going to have fun while it does.
Right.
And I dived into it
Mhm.
and I have not regretted a single moment since.
That's
Wow.
amazing. I love how, like, the one thing we look back now, we see, we talk about, it was probably like a show like Real Sex or something. Cause I remember that because that was like some of the first time seeing, people, being sexy or doing anything that involved sex. And so I feel like it's a freedom that you get when you can just dance and not care what people think and just enjoy your body. And that's something I think
Mm.
a lot of people went on a journey within like 2020 because we had nothing else to do.
Right.
Mhm.
So how did you get have you ever, I guess it's a two-part question maybe. Have you ever had a fear of just like expressing yourself through dance, burlesque dance? And if you did, how did you get past that fear of just doing it?
I definitely had a shit ton of fear getting into it. I am a very traditional theater kid. I did musicals growing up, and every time that we would have a dance number, I would shit myself because I am not the best dancer. And I got told many a time that no one wants to see a fat person dance. No one wants to
Wow.
see a fat
Wow.
girl on stage being sexy. Nobody wants to see that. And I spent a lot of time being the ensemble chick in the back, trying to
Wow.
still singing and dancing my little heart out, but I wasn't the main character and I wasn't the ingenue. So when I decided I wanted to do this, that was really the biggest thing, was feeling as though nobody wanted to see me do this.
Right.
And it was it was less, I was like, because in my brain, I was like, well, I've danced on stage before. I've sung on stage before. I've acted. Like, the act itself is not something I'm totally scared of. It's the being just me, and that I am the act. I am the show. I am the focus, and not everything else around me.
But
Man,
kudos to you for shutting those people up.
yes.
Whoever has something to say.
But I love that you hit on the topic. I know when I saw your video on TikTok, it was funny. It was like literally the first video on TikTok I've seen of yours and on my FYP. And I was like, oh my gosh, she is just beautiful. You better shake, move, and get free. And I was just so enamored, and like literally I saw that video and I slid into your DMs. I was like, hey. So so can you tell us more, like what can you tell us, what was it like when you first got on that stage and did burlesque for a crowd of people? Because I'm curious about that feeling, that of vulnerability, but also that seems like you reclaimed something when you did it.
For sure. It was fucking terrifying, I'm not gonna lie. I was
Right?
definitely, it was in the stupid little dive bar. I like, looking back on it now, it is a shit bar. I remember everything being sticky
Oh
and the
God.
stage being gross. But in the moment, I was like, this is the most important stage I have ever been on. And I remember standing in the hallway waiting to hear me come on, and like waiting for the announcer to call my name, and I was just shaking. I was so nervous. I was like, fuck, what if I get up there and everyone just like laughs at me? Because there's the weird added fear too of being in theater for so long. I'm so used to other people kind of coming up with the choreography and coming up with the
Right.
costumes. Like, all of this is my baby. I went up there for the first time with a whole act that was my baby, and I have to hope that people like it.
Yeah.
And but once I got up there, I felt so powerful. And looking back at it now, I actually recently just revised my first ever number, and I looked back at my first ever performance of it and my most recent one, and I was like, whoa, that is a lot of growth. like I can see all of my little mistakes from back then, but I going up there and feeling that confidence, and it was so powerful knowing that everyone was watching me and that I was worthy of taking up that space.
Yeah.
And that I got to take up, I think it was only like a 3-minute song, but it felt like infinity, that people were looking at me and I got to take that attention in a way that I was never able to before.
Right. Because I know as a Black, the big person, big body, whatever you want to call them, it is, I never realized how much I was taught not to take up space. Like,
Yes.
till I got older and started seeing people like I've always seen bigger women, but on TV, in smaller worlds. Like, you see the Amber Rileys and Queen Latifah, but she fluctuated. But those are just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. But you didn't see them really get a chance to take up space all the time. It was like you get this one moment to shine, and then you're relegated to the back seat. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that when you stated about taking up space, and that's, I feel like a lot of women, regardless of size, but I know, as speaking as from experience, that that taking up spaces can be terrifying.
Yeah.
Super terrifying. But I have to tell you, it's one of the things that keeps me doing it, because every single time there's always at least one person that comes up and is like, I have never seen somebody that looks like me or is my size or has saggy boobs or whatever it may be, they finally are seeing someone that has a little bit of them in them. That
Mhm.
sounds weird. A
Mm-hmm.
little bit of them, like they can see themselves. And I've had people come up to me after crying and being like,
Okay.
I've never thought that I could be sexy like that, but now I want to go home and get some
Wow.
new lingerie. Or I have people being like, I've never thought of possibly doing burlesque, but after seeing someone that looks like me, I want to try it.
Oh my God, that's
And
cool.
to leave shows knowing that people are looking at themselves differently. Like, yes, it feels cool to go on stage and be like, haha, I'm the center of attention. But in truth, like that's what keeps me doing it, is hopefully that more people will see themselves in me and feel hopefully more freer to be themselves.
Right.
Mm.
And let me ask you this. I'm sorry, Jess. Didn't mean. Did you want to
Oh
ask?
no,
Okay.
no, you go ahead.
Okay. Because like I know we talked about and I was just when I was reading your bio. One, I love the thing you said in the bio, which I will put in there. Well, I'm gonna read it for our listeners because I just want to read this last line because it makes me laugh and giggle. And you talk about how you want to your goal is to create a better world, one boob at a time. And I just love that because I really am I'm 37 years old. So I feel like now I'm actually reaching a point where I feel freer with my body. I feel freer
Mhm.
with my sexuality. So can I ask, is burlesque something that helped you get to that point, or were you on that point for a freer sexuality and safety with your body before burlesque? Who came
Ooh.
first, the chicken or the egg?
I think weirdly, like I think weirdly both happened at the same time. I think I was definitely getting in a more comfortable place, at least talking about my sexuality. For my day job, I have been a sex educator for quite a few years. So I was very used to talking about sex and like working with people through their sexuality in a very kind of clinical way.
Mhm.
But now actually being able to express what sexuality feels like was what felt really vulnerable,
Mhm.
and also expressing what sexuality felt like for me. Because it's a
Right.
lot easier to be like, oh, well, sex is this, and here's a definition, and here's this, because it's a lot more sterile, and it's easy to be like, this is what's on paper about sex.
Mhm.
But to be vulnerable, because it's extremely vulnerable to say, not only am I going to dance in front of people, but I'm going to bear everything and be sensual and leave naked. And like that's a whole extra level. And I think that's the part that burlesque gave for me. I have felt so much more at home in my body in a way that I never have.
Mhm.
I am suddenly feeling sexy as shit, even if I'm just getting out of bed, if I'm in the shower, in the same way that I am on stage when I'm done up and in rhinestones. And I don't know if I would feel that way without burlesque, or at least if I did, I think it would have taken me a lot longer to get there.
Okay, so the burlesque snapped you into a lot more of that comfort. Okay, I like it.
It's so awesome. I mean, because I'm just thinking about, I'm just, as you was talking, I'm just sitting here thinking about how, like, times I've been to the beach and I feel like I needed to be, like, not that I needed to be, but just not being comfortable in my body, like, wanted to cover up, like, have on a, like,
Yes.
and not just have on, like, a two piece or anything like that. Or I don't know, like, but yeah, it's awesome just hearing your story, like, just being free in your body and not caring what people think.
And it's odd because as much as I don't care about what people think, I also
Mm,
have to, because it is
mm,
still weirdly a service. Like I am hoping that people
Oh,
like me, and I'm hoping that they book me and hire me and ask me to be a part of podcasts. So
okay,
it's such a
makes
weird
sense.
double-edged sword where like you have to know that the opinions of others don't make or break you,
right.
Mm,
but you do have to improve and know what things work and don't work,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
which
okay.
is
Mm-hmm.
it's such a weird. zone to live in, because it's definitely easy to be like, when nobody booked me, I must suck. But sometimes, like, I just went through like January, I definitely went through a little bit of a depressive period because I was like,
Mm-hmm.
no one's booking me. Why is nobody booking me? It was just because everybody was taking a damn break. It was the holidays.
Right. And it's the winter time. I know.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to it because I feel like that. And my cousin who named the podcast, I used to do the same thing. I'd be like, girl, I just understand why they just not give me any energy. Da, 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 da. She was like, it's not about you. I was like,
Yes.
okay, I see what you've done there. Uh, you told me about myself, and I'm going to sit down. So, can
Right.
you?
So you have to weirdly keep yourself in check and knowing that
Yes.
like you can only control what you can control. And if people
Mm-hmm.
just don't fuck with you, then they don't. Sometimes people don't
Yeah.
like what I do, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I've had somebody totally try and heckle me in the middle of performing. And
What?
it's
Wow.
yeah, and it's just like what like if you don't like it, you can literally leave.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know which personality would have came out of me. It would have been maybe the Memphis one where it would be like, motherfucker, if you don't like it, you can leave.
Well, the cool part is that usually, for the most part, in the spaces that I've been in, everyone is really accepting, and burlesque is an extremely body positive type of art form to be in
Mhm.
because you kind of have to be. Everyone's getting naked. Like, there's
Mm-hmm.
nowhere to hide in naked. So it's a lot more friendly towards different body types.
Mm-hmm.
Ironically enough, it's the people who only know like stripping who are like, oh, I'm coming to see boobies, who
Mm.
then get upset when maybe they're not seeing the body type that they expected, or they are feeling turned on by a body type that they're not used to. And it might make them feel frustrated or make them have to confront a feeling that they might not have felt before. And it's weirdly vulnerable. So you kind of have to, as the performer, be like, that is not like, it's about me, but it's not about me. Like, I'm gonna keep doing my thing. I'm
Mm.
gonna keep being on my stage, and you can get the fuck out
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
go to therapy.
I'm gonna pop my shit and you can go. Like,
Right.
so you hit on the topic about being a sex educator. Like, can you educate us on all things sex? Not just, I know we only got about 30 more minutes, but more likely just you talked before we start recording about like BDSM, the kink community, and I'm seeing more and more people who are black in the POC community seeming to like reach out more to the kink community, and like expressing their sexual desires. Can you kind of give us some information on that? I don't know where to start though.
Sure. I feel like
Before
to
you,
kind of give
I'm sorry.
like
Before you do, what is? I might be
Oh,
a little slow. What is BDSM? I don't know
I
what
was
that is.
literally about to say that's probably the perfect place to start.
Okay. Okay.
So BDSM, to kind of boil it down, the is an acronym. So
Mhm.
the letters mean bondage, dominance, sadomasochism, and masochism. So
Mhm.
those are different, trust me.
yeah.
Um, so bondage meaning some kind of tying up or binding of some kind, obviously with consent and with sexual pleasure involved. So that can be done with ropes, with body safe tape. It can even technically just be done by holding somebody's hands together. It can be done very easily. Then we have submission and dominance, where somebody is in charge of somebody else, obviously, again, with consent. And it is a very boiling down of it, but just to
Mhm.
get the idea. So someone's in charge, somebody isn't, and there's a nice little power dynamic there. And then you have sadomasochism and masochism. Sadomasochism is the person that likes to give pain and get sexual pleasure from giving that pain. And masochist is a person who gets sexual pleasure from receiving that pain. So it works
Hmm.
together.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you for the
And
breakdown.
it's a form, it's something that has been around for probably as long as humans have been around, to be
Uh-huh.
honest. There's historical evidence of people having fetishes as early as like the 1800s, if not even sooner. There's stories of
Wow.
monarchs having like little foot fetishes or liking to be
Hmm.
spanked when they're not on the throne. It's been going on forever, but it is the community itself, as a member of it, it's a very white dominated community, as much of the world is. And when talking about sex and when having sex and dealing with those power dynamics, when you add race into it, it makes things immediately 10 times more complicated.
Hmm.
And so, especially for Black and Brown folks, it's just a lot safer to not interact and to do your kink on your own or to not even participate in it at all sometimes. But I think now we're in a place where Black and Brown folks are starting to realize this is not just some white people shit. This is this is shit that Black people are feeling. We want, like, Black and Brown folks also want to be subs. We also want to be doms. We want to be spanked and choked and to have that fun as well, but to do it safely and respectfully. And it's been really exciting to see more Black and Brown folks talking about how do you treat us safely and respectfully while fucking us and while topping us or subbing for us and having those conversations, because the kink space can't be safer if we don't talk about what we need first.
Right. And
Mhm.
that's a real interesting way you put it, because like you said, how you put like learn how to treat us during sexual encounters, because on this podcast I can root everything back to slavery. And
Hmm.
everybody should be able to, but education systems be tripping. So
Truly.
and so I was thinking about how like I get why the BDSM community is so scary to the Black community, because it just seems like it is possibly regressive. But the research that I've done, it seems like one of the most caring and consenting communities, though. Like, it's all about consent whenever I hear someone talk about the BDSM community.
Yeah.
um can you talk more on that, just about like how important consent is in sexual relationships, especially the role it plays in the BDSM community?
Oh my gosh, yes. So consent in life is probably one of the most important things.
Mhm.
And I don't think we realize how much consent goes into our everyday lives. And then, especially
Right.
going into kink, it's a lot of, and it sounds so corny, but like, it's a lot of, do you like this? Do you not like this? And asking those questions on a consistent basis and checking in on consent in a more consistent way, instead of going into a situation and being like, hey, I'm going to do this and this and this to you. Sounds cool? Sure. And never talking about it again. We check in on each other, even
Mhm.
if it's, in the middle of, like, I've actively seen somebody with their fist inside of somebody's vagina and be like, hey, are you doing okay right now?
Oh wow.
Oh my goodness.
The consent is when everything is done right, because as much with the world, there's still some bad apples in there. And so when done correctly, kink can be so healing and probably one of the safest sexual experiences I have had. But at the same token, if somebody is doing it incorrectly, it can be really damaging.
Right.
So it's that weird double-edged sword again of like, you have to communicate and push your own consent, and somebody else has to respect and listen to that consent, and it happens in both directions. So even if it is a dominant and submissive relationship, it's not just the sub saying, oh, I consent to you paddling me or spanking me. It's also this dom saying, I consent to being able to have this responsibility of making sure that you're okay at the end of this. I consent to having this power over you for this little bit of time. And I think there's something really healthy about that consistent check in and that consistent consent, because when you assume that everything's okay, a lot of things end up not being okay. Or people leave experiences being like, damn, I like that first part, but I didn't like when this happened, and not feeling comfortable to talk about it.
Yeah. And
I,
Oh, go ahead, Jess.
I was
Go ahead.
gonna say, I guess like in situations like that, like what would someone do? Like, so say like someone's consensual, like, okay, I want you to spank me or do whatever to me, and then they start, but then they into it like 5 minutes or whatever, like, okay, I don't like this anymore. I don't want you to do this anymore. But that person continues to do it even after you said, hey, I don't like that anymore.
So that is a deep violation of somebody's consent and definitely is a very deep equivalent to sexual assault,
Mm,
especially because it is usually during a sexual situation.
mm,
And in most spaces, in most like if it, in a BDSM community, BDSM dungeon, for the most part, people can fully get blacklisted for ignoring consent.
Wow.
mm,
Mm,
There is a a lot of like accountability. If
I was just
somebody
about to say.
hears that, somebody didn't listen to someone's consent, that person can totally be blacklisted and never play with somebody again. Like I've heard of
mm,
folks who have to actively go to a different city to try and run from the bullshit that they've done.
Mm.
But it's not going
wow.
to work because also we have the internet. So now,
Right.
Oh, so y'all have like
Right.
a kind of like a semi-universal document, like he or she or they are not cool people. So,
Hmm.
yes.
So
And
do
man.
you all
especially like
have?
especially with submissives, like we want to take care of each other.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that's part of actually why I really love being a submissive. I love that we all tend to try and take care of each other. Like on the website FetLife and such, where theoretically if you are meeting somebody new who wants to play with you, it's a great place to communicate. It's a good place to look up who they are and possibly see if other people have played with them, because then you can vet and ask and be like, hey, when you played with so and so, were they fine? Did you have a good experience? And if they're like, oh yeah, that was great, then you can probably walk into a situation knowing it's going to be pretty okay. But it's also a great way to triple check, and if somebody's like, actually that person is a no-go, do not
Mm.
interact,
Wow.
then now and you could have possibly multiple people who can corroborate that information as well.
So you guys do have like I guess like a sort of an online system in place to where like it would be hard for somebody to be like, okay, well, I'm in California right now. I'm gonna go to Chicago, and even though I was doing what I shouldn't have been doing there, I'm gonna go to a whole nother city and state. Just like I guess like they have like a sex offender registry. I know it's not like it's not like a type of registry, but do you all have like an online system in place where I can look up this person and see what they've been into?
So kind of, but it's kind of in the same way that if you are dating somebody new, you might reach out
Mm.
to who they've dated in the past.
Okay.
So there is a website called FetLife. It is essentially like BDSM Facebook,
Mm.
Hmm.
Okay.
which is, and it's
I
not
love
a
that. It's
great
probably more
website.
entertaining than Facebook. Just-
Oh, it is, but it also gets wild.
okay.
Uh,
Hmm.
and it's also a place where anybody can decide to message you if they want to, and you can choose to respond. People can see your profile, and so it can be a cool place. It can also be a really creepy place. So it's one of those you have to be very safe about who you decide to interact with on there.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a great safety net in the sense of like, if just like we said, if you're looking to play with somebody new, you might look at their profile and see, because there is a way to put like current submissive is blah, blah, blah. So you could reach out to who they're currently playing with and be like, hey, I'm interested in, hooking up with this person. What are they like? Are they cool? Do you have a good past with them? Or you can reach out to other people that they've played with in the past and just have that triple check there.
Hmm. Okay.
Right. Well, can I ask you, because you did state that you are in the submissive side of the BDSM. Have you been always on submissives or submiss? Oh, I'm sorry, submissive, or have you ever been a switch or a dom, or have you always known what part you wanted to play in?
Ooh, I've definitely, for the most part, been a submissive.
Mhm.
It feels right. It feels very much at home, and it's probably where I get the most pleasure.
Mm.
But that's not to say I don't have fun kind of topping from the bottom every once in a while, where I am still the submissive, but I'm going to do whatever I want to you because I'm a bratty little shit. And I love being a submissive because you can play around that way. You can decide to be a little bit of a brat and decide that you're gonna have some demands, and if they're not met, you're gonna be a little bit of a bitch about it, or you can be super chill and like, yep, I'm gonna listen to whatever you say, and I'm just gonna be here and be a soft little princess and listen to what you want. And you can decide of like which side of the lane you want to play on. I do top every once in a while. What's nice is that both my partner and I are willing to switch for each other, so things get a little interesting
Oh,
from time to time. And I've also dommed professionally before. Burlesque is not the only type of sex work I have done.
oh
I
wow.
did a little bit more of like financial domination and those types of things as a fun way to make some extra cash in college.
Man, I just heard about that on TikTok. I wish I knew something about that when I was in college, because clearly the mox bus wasn't moxing. But
No.
um, can let me ask you this question, and it may take a second for me to formulate it, because when you talk about, I feel like you made in okay, so you know how in the not really just the black community, but they always talk about in the black community, like, I want a woman to submit. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So as a person who plays a submissive, what how do you feel about those terms in those relationships? Because I feel like their submission is a totally different from the things that the way you submit in life. So do you have any comments about that? Does this question make sense? Because it popped in my brain. I'm like, how does that correlate?
Oh no, this question makes complete sense. So I'm very much one of those people that I submit to you because I want to.
Hmm.
And the submission that I give is the submission to be soft, to allow for someone to take care of me, to allow someone to see me be vulnerable. That's my submission. The submission isn't, oh, I'm going to cook and clean and be your little housewife and do whatever you say and you can do whatever you want and I'm just going to be at home and I'll be here when you need me. No, fuck that. I am, I
Yeah.
am also a human being with a life and with dreams and wants and aspirations. And I'm not just going to put those aside because somebody needs somebody to be at home for whenever they need a meal and a quick fuck.
Mm, I
Like,
love.
my submission is so much deeper than that. And I think that's where people can kind of get misconstrued.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
as much as like, yes, my submission definitely from time to time can look very service oriented. I definitely have times where I love being a little bit of a service sub and doing what my partner needs. But it's nothing like, oh, you're going to clean the house because you're the woman of the house and you're supposed to.
Uh,
No,
I,
Mm.
it's because I'm doing the dishes because he was at work and I want him to come home and have that little extra smile on his face.
mm-hmm.
Like that's what I'm doing it for. Or, oh, I'm going to make sure that, I'll make dinner so that when he gets home from work, if I'm able to, he has that little extra smile on his face and a little bit more wanting to go spank me in the bedroom.
Mm, okay, girl.
Right. So it's not,
I
oh, I'm
love.
doing this because I'm a woman and
Uh-huh.
I'm supposed to do it because it's my place. Whenever I hear people say that,
Oh my
immediate turn off. It's like, bleh,
God.
no
I
thanks.
know. I'm like, so I don't know if you saw this. It was a video of this guy talking about he likes a younger woman because she's more malleable or less assertive or something. And
Ew.
I know, and he just said it so proud, like he was really proud. And then, what was that phrase he used? Um, or something like they used the definitions, and he was like, "Where you get that from?" She was like, "Webster's dictionary," because he wanted them to be malleable, or they haven't had their hearts broken as much, and da 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 da. And
Ew.
he didn't realize that it was a predatory move. And
Right? That sounds like grooming 101.
right. And
Right.
it's like, bro, you need to check yourself. And I feel like the community, or that this whole movement of the masculine female, masculine male, whatever the mess is really trying to take out the consent, the consent for people to choose what they want, and just to accept whatever you're giving. And that's not how we going back. I don't understand
Right.
why people don't want to let go of these antiquated things, because the patriarchy ain't serving the men like it used to be.
It sure
Not,
is. It's not serving
it's
anybody.
not serving anyone. Men up here cracking by the seams because they sad and don't know what sadness is. And women are like, look, I just can't do this no more. Like, I have to learn how to take care of myself. Or sometimes they're cracking at the seams because they're too busy trying to keep pace with the patriarchy. It's
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
serving no one. Like, that's why I love seeing people be free with themselves, and like how you stated you're non-binary, where you're just like, fuck all of those heteronormative things, because it just keeps you so trapped, it seems.
It does. Like ever since I came out as non-binary, and it was not easy doing that, I have felt so much freer and so much happier in myself. And I don't think I would be able to do burlesque if I hadn't come out as non-binary.
Right.
Because I needed that comfort in myself to know that I acknowledge that I am something more special than male or female in these binary ideals, that I
Mhm.
am something so much more magical than that. And that
Mhm.
doesn't change whether I'm wearing a binder and some jeans or if I'm all dolled up with my boobs out. That doesn't change.
Exactly.
And that's something that I had to be sure of before I could ever go out in front of a stage of people. Because at the same time, as much as like burlesque is one of those spaces that is super inclusive, sometimes people aren't.
Yeah.
And they assume because you're in a dress and you have glitter on that you are a girly girl who girly girls all the girly girl things. And I have to sit there and be like, I am totally a girly girl. Get it, girl. So yeah, like that is, and I think that also helps too with my sexuality because, unsurprisingly to anybody, I'm also really bisexual. I don't give a shit about gender for myself. I don't give about gender for other people.
Right.
And so I think it really helps because now I don't feel like caged down by that binary either. Like
Mhm.
having a grown ass man look at me in the face, and because I dealt with those men I'm only 23 and sitting in college, I dealt with those men who looked at me and were like, oh, I was like, I like that you haven't had that many relationships. And I'm like, that's
Ugh.
fucking nasty. Like,
Mm.
and there was something so freeing to be when they would be like, oh, you're just like a perfect little girl. I'd be like, oh, joke's on you. I'm not even a girl. So haha.
And it throws people off, is because they like, oh, so how do I treat you now? Like a person.
Right.
Mhm.
Like
That's
nothing's that different.
exactly.
Nothing changed.
But I feel like there is this difference that people try to put on the masculine and the feminine. But like when men be like, why women want to be so masculine? You're gonna be this, you're gonna be this, and the adjectives that they use to describe masculinity don't sound so great for anyone. So I'm
Right.
just like, why are you protecting it like this with such a strong, firm fist? But
And the idea that like it's bad to interact with other energies.
mm-hmm.
Like I think it's healthy as shit for a masculine person to experiment with their femininity or just to live in their femininity for a little bit, whatever that means for them. Like that's healthy. We are not supposed to be these like robots that it's like I have penis, that is me. Like that's ridiculous. We are
Exactly.
like life is so crazy and so like this sounds so cheesy, but magical. Like we live on a planet where there's water and sky.
Mm.
Like we live in a planet where like there are sea creatures who are birthed male but switch their gender so that they can give birth to a child and then go back to their original gender.
Oh, which one does
Mm.
that?
That's a seahorse.
Oh, I didn't know they switched. I just thought they switched. They stayed one and then they had babies.
No,
Okay.
it switches. So, like, how do we live in a world like that? And then as humans, we limit ourselves.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what campness is? Camp.
Ooh, yes. So the idea of camp is a kind of fashion concept. It's the idea that you do something so over the top that it's so bad, it's good.
Mhm.
And you can see that a lot with like drag queens, where like the idea of like the makeup is so exaggerated, it's so over what a woman would be that it's so good. Like obviously no woman is walking around with a size 30 waist and tits bigger than you could ever see in your life. But when a drag queen does it and does it right, it's not only good, it is so good.
Oh my goodness.
And you can see it also with like movies. Some of like my favorite campy movies are like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark,
Okay.
even Moulin Rouge, where like it's so much excess. It's so like there's lights, there's colors, there's feathers, there's everything, and it's so extravagant that it's so good.
My
And I love incorporating it into my burlesque work because I think it's such a fun element. Like, I weirdly, I always love describing burlesque as my own form of girl drag
Ooh, I like that.
because it is like we're sitting here shoving ourselves in corsets and in heels and putting on these like extremely rhinestoned costumes and wigs, and it's so extra.
I
And to try and pretend like it's not that extra, it almost, I feel like, takes away the fun. So I always try and lean really heavily into the fun if I can, or even just the extra dramatic, even if it means be like my most recent number I did to Roxanne from Moulin Rouge, which is so
I love
dramatic
that.
and so
Yes.
like, oh my, he left me. And like really giving into those emotions. It just makes it so much better.
That sounds so cute. Like I've been to there because we have like a little burlesque. I don't want to say little burlesque because because I feel like black folks always say your little show, and I'm trying not to say that anymore. But I've been to a burlesque show in Tennessee, small town, and it was like really cool and campy. And I was like, and they actually had plus size. They had everybody do it. They had men, women, non-binary people, and it was just so cool. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna see if we can get you come down here. I'm gonna talk to the people that run it. Let's see if we can get you to come on down. That would be so dope.
Would love that.
I would love that. That would be so cool. Jess, have you ever seen a burlesque show?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I don't think so.
You
Okay.
gotta pop your cherry.
Yes. You live in LA, honey. You got
I
this.
know, so it's plenty out here. I know.
I feel like we're gonna have to send you on a mission to go see a burlesque show and like be extra sexy somewhere and just be like have your ass and titties out. That would be so exciting for you.
My little B cups.
Girl, you better flaunt them little B cups.
Truly,
Not
all
little
cups are good cups,
all
okay?
cups are good cups because somebody gonna like them, I promise you,
Mhm.
honey. Well, I wonder because I know I typically talk a lot about mental health. So one, I didn't realize you were 23 because you feel definitely grown in spirits, but also whimsical like a kid. So that's great. But I want to talk more about like how has your mental health changed from when you took that step in 2020 and till now in 2023? Like, I feel like that's definitely had to help with your mental health in some shape, form, or fashion, or change it.
For sure. I definitely feel so much more sure of myself
Mhm.
Mhm.
in everything that I do. I am someone that deals with anxiety and ADHD. So, what a fun combination in my brain.
Mhm. I'm, I'm
And
anxiety and ADD. Woo, girl, we got this.
mhm. And so a lot of times I have that like inner villain that's telling me like, no, you can't do these things, or like, no, it's going to be stupid. Why would anybody want to see that? And originally that was really hard for me with getting over that hurdle of like, what if I just look stupid? What
Mhm.
if
Mhm.
I fail and everyone hates it? And I've learned that just putting in the effort of saying, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make a goal and make it come true is something that a lot of people don't even have the power to do,
Yeah.
even in just little things.
Mhm.
So let alone to say, I'm going to start a burlesque career. Because that was the thing too, is I went into it and I wasn't like, this is going to be a hobby and I'm going to do it like once a month and that's going to be it. I knew once I wanted to start it, I want everything I can get out of it.
Mm.
So going in with that mindset and saying, okay, if this fails, it's going to fail big. But if it goes well, it's going to be amazing. And
Yeah.
believing in that is terrifying.
Oof. Mhm. I agree.
But now that I've been doing it and now that it's succeeding and I'm seeing that progress in myself and that the amount of shows that I'm doing has grown. I went from doing it once a month to I'm doing it maybe between like 5 to 8 times a month.
Wow.
Okay.
And it's all me. I'm the person finding bookings. I'm the person who makes my websites, who takes my pictures. I'm the person that does everything.
Mhm.
And having that
Wow.
faith in myself that I can make those dreams happen. And it feels like every new number is a new little dream that I have to sit there and come up with a costume and come up with choreography and come up with a vision and make it happen.
I
And
like that.
there's no one that's going to push me but me.
Right. Go ahead.
I, oh no, I was gonna say I like that you said that. I mean, I'm pretty sure if you had like the help, you would appreciate it. But just from you saying like I take all my pictures, I find all my bookings, you do this, you do that, and I think that's important for people to hear because there are a lot of people out there that they wanted to start whatever career or business or whatever it is that they want to do, but they feel like everything has to be perfect. Like it has to be the perfect picture, it has to be the perfect video, it has to be the perfect times. Like no, just get up and do it. Use what you have and do what you need to do.
Truly, because it doesn't have to be perfect.
Hmm.
I say that as someone who, like, even today I was doing a little photo shoot in my house and I didn't look right, and in my brain I was like, fuck, none of them are gonna look good. But sometimes you don't need for everything to be perfect.
Hmm.
Sometimes
Hmm.
it's more than that one perfect picture or that one perfect moment. Sometimes things
Hmm.
get bigger than you even plan and it's not perfect.
Hmm.
Like
And I
one of
think,
my first ever like big numbers that I did, I took a very big risk and I decided I was going to do a number inspired by Fairy Godmother from Shrek 2.
oh
I don't know why. I was like,
What?
you know what? This is what we're doing,
I
and
gotta look
we're
this
gonna
up.
dive into it. But that's such a weird. So I walked around for weeks being like, hey, I'm just coming up with like a stripper number to Shrek.
Uh-huh. Oh,
But when I
okay. I
tell you,
remember.
but when I
I
tell you,
remember
it's probably my most successful number I have to date, and people love it
wow.
every fucking time. And the first time I did it was not perfect. My costume
Wow.
got stuck.
Mhm.
Shit broke. I tripped over my skirt. A
Oh,
lot of
goodness.
shenanigans happened.
Yeah.
But every time it gets better. And every
Hmm.
time people love it more. And I love it more. And
That's awesome.
if I would have just let it go after the one time that it didn't go perfectly, I wouldn't still have that number today.
Hmm.
I need to see this number because I have to know. Did you do it in the red dress or the
Oh,
blue?
yes, I did.
Oh, okay. I see you because I haven't seen Shrek in years, but this one makes me want to see it. I'm like, yeah, I see it. I
Yeah.
need to see this.
I know that's like a conversation me and you saying that I think it was you and me and you or maybe it was someone else, but how we are saying how I guess especially like with social media, people make things seem so perfect, like their pictures are perfect. So it's
Mhm.
like it's a false sense of perfection. And
Yeah.
I always try to tell myself, and I try to tell other people, like nothing is perfect. Like you keep perfecting your craft, you just perfect it as you go. But if it's not perfect the first time you put it out there, you just keep working on it until you get it to where you want it to be. And
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
perfect in your eyes. It doesn't have to be perfect in the next person's eyes because I'm always a firm believer that we all have our own craft. So whatever you do that it might not appeal to other people, someone else out there loves it.
Hmm.
Yes.
And I was watching something to piggyback on what you said is that there was this guy talking about podcasts, probably trying to sell a course because that's what
Mhm.
everything is on that right now. But they were saying that there's 8 billion people in the world. Somebody's gonna find you. Somebody's
Yeah,
gonna find your niche because there's not 8 billion individual in niches out there. There's a lot of these things are gonna overlap. So,
exactly. You know,
but
you have people talking about oversaturated industry. Listen, it could be oversaturated all they want to. I'm still going to do
me too.
what interests me.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that, like, even if something is quote unquote oversaturated, you aren't.
Mm,
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
you and as your most authentic self isn't
mhm.
oversaturated. There's nobody like you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I know we're coming close to the full hour, but I know you got a couple more minutes with me. I want to kind of get into the more present times. I want to talk about Rihanna and the Super Bowl. Oh, sorry, the big game, because technically I can't say that. So, or no, actually, the football game at the Rihanna concert. Um, are we all Rihanna fans at least? Were we happy to see it? How do we feel about it?
I don't know
I
if I.
love Rihanna
Mhm.
and I'm happy that she got to do it, but I kind of wish it wasn't her. Hot take.
Hey, explain. I like this hot take. Let's see.
Oh, so oh goodness, how do we
Let's
talk about the big game
caveat.
without
Don't
calling
I
it the
don't want
big
no
game?
hate coming
No, this is very
for
much no hate. This is
no
out of
no. I'm telling the listeners. I don't want no hate coming for Little Mx.Bunny about her
Right.
hot take. We are a safe zone. I will shut that shit down. But anyway, let's
truly.
continue.
No, like, this is with full love to Rihanna. I love her music. I love her vibe. I love her makeup. I love the lingerie. This is lit with all the love and respect to Rihanna. But that game in the halftime show it asks for spectacle.
hmm
Mm,
And
hmm
I feel like her performance style isn't meant for spectacle. It's meant for
mm,
vibes, if that makes sense.
mm.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
I kind of feel like it almost played against her because people were like waiting for something. They were like waiting for the guest star. They were waiting for the big moment. They
Mm,
were waiting. And that's just not, she's just a good time.
yeah,
Hmm.
because
She's a,
because anti was a bop, but isn't it like I'm sorry, Renaissance would have been like a spectacle because nobody's seen that.
yes.
Yeah, it's like because everybody just kept saying, like you just said, they were waiting for the special guest. They were waiting for the special guest, and I don't know it's because she had mentioned that it was going to be a special guest, but afterwards, people were like, oh, maybe she was meaning the baby because she's pregnant again. That was the special guest. So yeah,
That's a good one. Like we got to see her. She announced to all the people in the world that she was pregnant. That's it.
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
13-minute pregnancy announcement.
right, right.
Oh my God. With all of that to say, though, I am still completely like mind blown that she did all of that because
Pregnant, yes.
catch however many feet in the air. No, thank
Right.
you. I will
And
stay
I
on the
didn't see
ground.
no safety cords.
Right.
Right.
I'm like,
And
I don't
and
trust
you
these people.
pregnant? No,
Right.
ma'am.
I don't even trust so I recently twisted my ankle walking off my porch. I don't even trust myself walking, let alone anybody to lift me into the air amongst the gods and all the angels to put me there with my baby. Like,
Right. That's so much. And
Mm-mm.
honestly, it was a good ass time.
it
She
was a good
sounds great.
she
She was
does.
giving us some good little moves. She was winding the waist. I feel like she gave what Rihanna gives,
Right.
but what might not have been enough because we all expect so much insane spectacle from the halftime show
True.
that, like,
Hmm.
when it is just a concert, we're sitting there like, damn, this is a long 13 minutes.
I
But she did with support, I mean like just putting her brand out there even more and all that other stuff. So maybe it was like a smart business move for her as well. So
oh,
I
it
totally
was.
think it was.
hmm.
Oh, yeah, the reports are in. Her music start was streams were up like 600% or something like that.
Wow.
I
Wow.
might be mixing up some numbers though, but they were up. They were up a lot of
Hmm.
percent, and also her makeup and clothing line when she sold a couple of million as well. So
Wow.
because
Damn.
I don't know if y'all know, you actually don't get paid to perform at the Super Bowl.
You
I
do
had heard that
not.
she didn't get paid. I didn't know that, but I heard she didn't get paid.
Right. So, but that
Uh,
it's like she may have, but I guess, and I wonder, does she pay for the dancers or does the Super Bowl do?
That's a good question.
I'm gonna
that's a
find
good
that out later.
question.
To be continued. Um, there was one other. Dang, I was gonna kind of switch up. The one thing I. This is why it's called cosines and tangents. Remember, we go on a tangent. See if you can follow me. I feel like you can. So I feel like one, she was a little low energy, but it makes sense because she growing a whole baby.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
but I felt that she wasn't overly sexualized. Like her outfit was cool. Like I liked it was like an
Hmm.
art of her bustier or artistic bustier kind of thing. You know,
Hmm.
Jess, you're the fashionista. So
Yeah.
but she had
Also, oh, go
but
ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no worries. Just the one thing I was trying to get to. I'm noticing that I feel like some women are starting to get away from just the overt and showing like the female gaze. Do you have
Hmm.
any what's the word? Feelings on like the female gaze or what that is? Because I feel like a lot of people don't really know what that is versus the male gaze.
Yes. So I am a huge fan of movies.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea of the male versus female gaze is have a whole TED talk in my mind.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm a nerd.
but
I love those.
I very much am living for this kind of new resurgence of the female gaze, and the idea that like because originally the idea of like the male gaze versus the female gaze came from cinema, and the idea that like women were viewed a certain way because they were literally being filmed through the lens of a male director.
Mhm.
And sadly, that also happens a lot with just life as a woman. A lot of existence is based off of the men in our lives, whether it be for
Hmm.
safety, for comfort, for sex, for whatever. A lot of woman life has to be kind of moved around male existence and the male gaze. And I think it's really cool to see this booming resurgence of women taking over that female gaze and deciding I'm going to put myself out there in the way that I want to be.
Hmm.
Like my most recent favorite example has been Doja Cat's new outfits lately.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like everyone who says that it sucks, I gotta tell you, does it just suck because her boobies aren't out?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Like, does it? Because I gotta tell you, she has never looked hotter to me.
I like it because like I know like the more I'm working on like decolonizing my mind of like patriarchal norms and all this other white supremacists, everything, I realize I'm like, I like that there is just showing there, it feels more artistic. Like,
Yes.
and because I was looking at when she did the woman and she was just like in a wig and thought it just seemed artificial. I don't know. It just like it didn't feel like it was supposed to be her after seeing her in her new in the way she's trying to present herself now more.
Hmm.
Yes. And deciding, I feel like the female gaze is so much of deciding where you put your sexual energy instead of assuming that all of a woman is sex, if that makes
Mm,
sense.
Yeah.
yes, I agree. And I feel like even women have to start really breaking that down for themselves because have y'all heard about like how they've been treating Chloe Bailey, like how people even in the black
Yes.
Hmm.
community, do you I feel like it's the respectability politics that has
Hmm.
people in the chokehold, and also maybe they feel uncomfortable with someone who is free with their sexuality. How do y'all feel about that, like the people's reaction to Chloe and how she's representing herself?
I mean, she just don't care. So she gonna do what she want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of sad in a weird way that
Mm-hmm.
people feel so scared of expressing themselves so fully.
Yeah.
Because like in truth, what are these people? They're putting on clothes. Some of it shows skin, some of it doesn't. They're showing off a little bit more of themselves, or they're choosing not to. Like, it's nothing that extravagant, but for some people, they don't give themselves that permission or don't feel like they have a moral ability to be that free.
Mhm.
And it's terrifying for people.
It
Like,
is.
even folks even like my own family, when I told them I was getting into burlesque or even getting into sex education, and they're like, well, why? Why are you doing that?
Mhm.
Why do you want to talk about sex? Why do you want to, like, who wants to do that? A lot of people actually.
Right. A
Like,
lot of people need to know because, like, I feel like, Lord, I don't know how we need more than 60 minutes, but I feel like we're gonna have to definitely have a second conversation about maybe like how the porn industry has really affected like
ooh,
one men and because I told somebody like the one thing I've learned in just my sexual journey is just telling him what I like and
yes.
telling him what I don't. I remember I told this guy that it was just not good, and I felt bad because he looked sad, but I felt very proud of myself for standing up and being like, that was just not good. Like, what was going on?
Yes.
It's the empowerment I think people are really scared of. And I don't think they realize how much sex really plays into empowerment, especially within the black body period, because sex was a commodity because it
Yes.
produced a commodity. And so I think that's one thing that I feel that is so scary for black people to really accept is that our sexuality wasn't ours up until recently, and that
Yes.
we have to stop being scared of it and really enjoy it because it is a pleasure. But we're gonna have to be continue this because I know we could go on and talk about this all day. Little Mx.Bunny, thank you so much for
Yes,
joining us.
thank
Like,
you.
this was amazing. Can you come back?
Oh, hell yes. And
Yeah.
thank you for letting me be a part of this. I am living for these conversations, and like I'm already ready for a part two. I'm ready.
Yes. Because I'm being for real because like me and Jessica, we are in Tennessee. Well, we went to school to college together, and we've been working on new ideas, and it's been almost 20 years for me. So you got some
Mm.
time, honey. Take your time. But we were going to try to give back with a lot of our alumni and talk about dating and relationships, and I definitely want you to bring your perspective and we could talk about it because we just have to do some work and some healing because
Mm.
it's a lot of shit going on and I'm tired. I just want to have a good
Yes.
time.
And so much of that healing is just talking about it.
Exactly, and
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
love having these conversations because I feel like some women I know that women we could talk real raunchy about sex, but I'd be
Mhm.
one I was like, let's just talk about it, y'all enjoying this, like. And I didn't enjoy it for a long time because I didn't have a voice in it. So now I'm just like, we gotta talk about it. Let's have these conversations, especially with men and people who present as men because they don't know and they have a false
Mhm.
sense of what sex should be as well, just like we do.
Yes,
So,
Mhm.
completely.
oh, we gonna
Yes.
come back for real, for real. I got your whole government number. Like, well, I just want to ask you one last question. I always ask this on all of my podcasts. When did you fall in love with your blackness?
Ooh, that's a good ass question.
I know you. I know, boo.
When did I fall in love with my blackness? I think probably like truly for the first time was in high school.
Mm,
I'd always like obviously acknowledge that I was black. I can't hide that shit.
right.
Um, but I went to a very white centered school, so it was really hard to be like, yes, I'm black and I'm proud when you're like, oh shit, I don't know who's a Republican next to me. And I started doing theater professionally. I had gotten my first paid gig at a professional theater, and I was in a production of To Kill a Mockingbird. And I started to really recognize how powerful being Black and being proud of that Blackness is, in both, for people who don't like Black people and are racist, and for other Black folks who get to see themselves in you, even just in day to day life. And being on stage and being in part of such a obviously very racially heavy show, it forced me to acknowledge in myself, like, I am a Black person on a stage and people are staring at me and see me. And I had to force myself to be like, okay, are we good with that? Are we good with the comments that might happen? Are we good with the feelings that might come up?
Mhm.
And I had to do a little bit of self work. But it forced me to look at myself and say, I do love myself and all that I bring to everything that I bring. And I will always bring my Blackness.
Ooh, I
Mm.
love that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes. Well, that was beautiful. Thank you
Yes.
again. I cannot thank you
Thank
enough.
you.
And I want to add this just into the future of the podcast, since
Hmm.
my cousin reminded me that part of the podcast is just the affirmation. So I just want
Hmm.
to give you some affirmation, Little Mix Buddy. That one you gave me, that one video I saw gave me so much like happiness, and I love seeing you, and I just can't wait to see more of you and what you're going to do.
Hmm.
Like, I'm seeing acting, I'm seeing you on stage more if that's what you want. Not to put any of my dreams on you. But I just see that it looks like you're manifesting the life and that you want, and it's just so up from here. So you got a fan and a friend and a cousin, so thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you. That made my heart all warm and shit.
Aw.
And I
I
have
was
a
a little
quote.
sappy. Okay, just got a
I
quote.
I have a quote before we get off. It's a short quote. So this is from Booker T. Washington, and it says, "If you want to lift yourself up, lift up someone else." And
Mhm,
I believe that you, Little Miss Bunny, that's what you're doing with your burlesque dancing, that you're teaching other women, just others, period, just to embrace their bodies and just fall in love with themselves. So thank you for what you do in uplifting other people.
I'm gonna be extra naked tonight, so I'm just saying.
Right.
As you should.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming, and please, please let everybody know where they can find you, and I will link everything in the bio as well.
Yeah, so I'm super easy to find on everything. It's just Little Mix Bunny. So little spelled out Little, mix MX, and then Bunny Bunny. So you should be able to find me on everything. I think I have everything but a Twitter. I might
Me,
even have a
I
Twitter
don't
and
know
I
how
just
to
don't
work
use
it.
it.
I don't
I
know how.
haven't had Twitter in a long time. I don't even know how to get back into my account.
I
I
tried to
don't know
tweet.
how Twitter works. As soon as I heard that shit was gonna get shut down, I gave up.
Me too. I was kind of hoping that I wouldn't have to learn, and then I was like, I don't know how to do this. I was trying to tweet that Rihanna looked cool, but I didn't know how to tweet. All right.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
thank you so much again, and as always,
Thank you.
we love you and bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.